Whether you agree with it or not, the Occupy Wall Street movement has certainly made people take notice. But what about the impact on next year's election? Joining me again is Nicole Gelinas, who's a senior fellow of the Manhattan Institute, Jed Morey, publisher of Long Island Press, Dr. Paul Levinson, who's a professor of communications and media studies at Fordham University, political analyst Basil Smikle, and Tom Borelli of the Free Enterprise Project at the National Center for Public Policy Research. Welcome again. Welcome back, Jed. Let's start with you. This is Occupy Wall Street, not Occupy Washington. Is President Obama safe with this crowd?
No, and I don't think anybody's actually really safe with this crowd. And that's the interesting thing about it is that they are going to take demands to Wall Street. They are going to take demands to Washington. And they are going to be representative of the so-called 99%, which again I think is part of the fundamental brilliance of the movement, is that it represents the majority of the vast majority of Americans. But what they're doing is they've actually assembled their own General Assembly, which are going to be convening in Philadelphia next year, which they just released. And they're going to be appointing people to each congressional district, so there's going to be 870 people, to take their list of grievances with what's occurring in Washington and put pressure to bear on sitting congresspeople, which is interesting because they're saying there's time yet to fix what's wrong. But if you don't, in the absence of that, we'll be there as an organized party for 2014 in the midterms and 2016 after that. So I think they've learned a lot from the Tea Party. I think that's been a very important movement for them. I think the genesis of some of the ideas are very much the same. But the key difference here is you have to understand, as people try to paint them as a party that is trying to redistribute wealth, they're actually trying to create a more equitable access to wealth, and that's a very key difference.
Does everyone agree that this is essentially a group of people that skew to the left? Is that pretty much an established? Would everyone agree with
Absolutely,
that?
yes. And I think it will spell very serious challenges for Barack Obama and his re-election. As far as I can tell, the protests are against government and its inability to solve our problems. That pertains, of course, not only to Obama, but to George Bush, under whose presidency all of this started. So it's pretty much an equal opportunity dissing. And
well, then how does it impact an election? What do we really get at the end of the day?
There could be a third party.
Depends how it evolves.
It could pressure Obama to take a more progressive position. There are all kinds of possibilities.
How can you get more progressive?
And I think what's interesting is that there are a lot of Republicans that are afraid of the Tea Party, and similarly, there'll be a lot of Democrats that are going to be afraid of this movement. And it has to be sustained. So whatever they're doing in Philadelphia, it's got to roll into the primaries in January and February, and it's got to go throughout the entire presidential cycle. And if that happens, and if they can actually maintain this momentum through the entire year, you will start to see some impact on messages, on platforms going into both parties' national conventions.
You know, at the same time, they are poked fun at a bit. You know, people talk about they don't smell so great down there after a month at Zuccotti Park. People are poking fun at, they're eating organic chicken and brown rice. So, I mean, is there a problem with their being taken seriously on a true political platform?
Well, any activist groups will be taken seriously when they're in the streets. I think one of the things President Obama has to worry about is being too aligned with them, especially with wealth redistribution. Obama said he wanted it 1%, that's wealth redistribution. And, more seriously, the Nazi American Party and the Communist Party have endorsed the Occupy Wall Street. So Obama has to be very careful not to be affiliated with groups like that.
Well, are they at some point going to have to turn people away from the open tent? I mean, really, right now they're kind of welcoming all. At some point, are they going to have to close ranks?
Well, that's a problem, again, with the unfocused message that groups that you don't want will come in and fill some of that vacuum. And I think also on the larger issue, they've learned from the Tea Party that the Tea Party may have gotten some Congress people elected, but if the Tea Party does want smaller government, which is very unclear, I mean, you talk about an unfocused message, many of the Tea Partiers, they don't want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and defense. So what else is there for smaller government? So that's an issue, too. But they may have gotten people elected to do what they are supposed to want, but that hasn't happened. Things just are going along the same in Washington. So does Occupy Wall Street want to get a couple Congress people in, but just have the same old system where you've got Wall Street cash going into Washington and allowing Wall Street to keep its government subsidies, that wouldn't be much of a victory. And I think they realize that, so they may take a different approach than the Tea Party did.
As far as Obama, the best thing he could do is go down to Occupy Wall Street, pick up a bullhorn and say to those people, I hear you. And by the way, it doesn't matter who endorses people. You know, I'm an author. Can I help it if some lunatic reads my book?
They should
So
stand
the
up and
fact that
distance
some
themselves.
party endorsed them means
With
nothing.
the Tea Party group, we policed our own
In fact, the labor unions, who are certainly not the Communist Party or the Nazi Party, have sent down their people. Close to it.
Close to it.
I see. You have a lot of respect, I guess, for the working people.
My father was a postal worker. I have a lot of respect for unions,
on your table and many other tables.
But not what they're doing now with the tactics, SEIU. You're wearing purple, I see.
This is a conversation that is really going to continue.
Purple.
All right. Well,
Surprise.
listen, I want to thank all of my guests, and to learn more about all of today's topics, log on to myfoxny.com and click on Public Affairs. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ty Hernandez. We're going to see you next time for more Street Talk.